Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So in the last class, before the break, we were studying about the various koshas. That in the Vedanta, the idea is the self is the witness. It is separate from all the layers of identification which we have with our body. That we think I am the physical body, we think I am the vitality. That sometimes we say that today I am feeling weak, that as if weakness is something which is my nature. But in reality, Vedanta says it is something which in no way affects the real me. The vitality is related to the body, is related to one or the various levels of our existence, but in no way it affects the self. So this Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. These five are the various layers of our identification. I won't say these are the five bodies. Sometimes we have the idea that Annamaya Kosha is outside and inside that is the Pranamaya, followed by Manomaya. That's the drawing which we find. And then the Vijnanamaya, innermost is the Anandamaya. It's not like that. That if in five different ways we identify with the various layers of our physical existence, which has nothing to do with the self. That sometimes, as we told, we identify with the body. So the body is just what that we say that I am that's fat, I am lean, I am thin. So these are all the attributes of the body. It's not something which something characterizes the self. The self has no attributes. It is neither fat, nor lean, nor tall, nor short. All those qualities belong to the body. Similarly, the prana, that we say that I am today very energetic, I am exhausted. All these are our identification with the level of energy. It doesn't affect the self. Mana, that we say that today I am very feeling joyous, today I am very depressed. It has to do with the mind. It is in no way affecting the reality. The Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is my decision, this is my opinion, this is what which constitutes my personality. All this relates to my decision. Vijnana, this buddhi, it in no way affects the real me. Anandamaya Kosha. When I'm in deep sleep, when I wake up, I say it is I who was in deep sleep. When the mind was at rest, it was as if not working. I was identified with that absence of activity in the mind. Otherwise, I would have never known that I was in deep sleep. I enjoyed the deep sleep. So these are the various, in short, we are just as we are recapitulating, we are just saying that this is the five different layers of our existence with which we get identified, but the self is just the witness. In no way it is affected by these five layers of our existence. And we have already studied the physical body, and now in the last class we were studying the subtle body, the 96th verse, which we will recapitulate before we go to the dream state, which has been described by Shankaracharya in the 97th and in the 98th and in the 99th verse of Vivekachudamani. After describing, he will say, the self is the witness of all the three states of our existence. Jagrata, Swapna, Shushupti. When I am awake, the self is the witness of that wakeful state. When I am in the dream state, the self is just the witness. It is in no way identified with that. And when I am in deep sleep, the self is again just the witness of that state, the deep sleep state. it is the turiya, the fourth state. The fourth state is not something which is separate from the three. It underlies all the three states of existence. And when even the three states of existence are not there, I am a liberated soul. I exist as the turiya. And when I am in the physical plane, I am the witness of all these three states. That ultimate, the turiya state, is in no way affected. It is always as it is. It is in no way. It has no transformation. It has no aging. It has no modifications. It is as it is. It is in the eternal present. There is no phase of time. It is in the eternal present. It is in the eternal present. It is just the amness. So that's the idea Shankaracharya will be going through various verses, in various ways, through various perspectives. He will try to explain us this idea that the self is in no way affected by anything whatsoever of this phenomenal existence. So now let's go to the subtle body, which has been described in the 96th verse by Bhagavat Pada Shankaracharya. So what he's saying, Vak Adi Pancha, Sravanadi Pancha, Pranadi Pancha, Abhra Mukhani Pancha, Buddhi Adi Avidya Api Kama Karmani, Puri Ashtakam Shukshma Shariram Ahu. The city which has these 8 constituents, 8 parts, what are they? Vak Adi Pancha Sravanadi. The first, the 5 organs of perception. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the smell, the taste and the touch. The seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Now, immediately when it is been spoken of as the Sukshma Sharira, the idea comes, how can it be Sukshma Sharira? This all belongs to this physical body. Here is my eyes with which I see. When I am dead, if my body is cremated, these eyes are also cremated. And its Sukshma Sharira is something which transmigrates. Then why Shankaracharya is describing it as Sukshma Sharira? So we should always remember, it is not these external eyes that see. In the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, you will find in one of his lectures, Swamiji is saying that you may have the most beautiful pair of eyes, but the optic nerve which connects your eyes with the brain, and brain again is not the Sukshma Sharira. It is just the organ through which the Sukshma Sharira finds expression. Just like in the computer, when you are in the internet, all the things which you are searching in the internet is something non-local. It is in the transmission. When you are in this, the hard disk of the computer doesn't produce that. It is something is being as if downloaded. Similarly, the mind is non-local. It is something like a transmission center. It is not something physical. The brain is something which is getting tuned with that non-local mind to create all these thoughts, feelings, and all the things which we feel through the mind. So this we should be very clear about. So this Vak Adi Pancha Sravanadi, when he is speaking, that Swamiji is saying that when you cut the nerve, then you may have the most beautiful pair of eyes. You may go to an optometrist and you say there is no defect with the eyes. But what has happened? The nerve has dried up, so there is no connection between the external orifice. You will find very interesting. If you read the scriptures, when they describe these external organs, they never say it is organ. They say it is orifice, golaka. So these are just the orifice. It is just like the lens of the camera. The light falls on it, it gets converted into nervous current, which passes through the optic nerve to reach the brain. And the brain, there is a part called, there's some portion which is called the center of perception, center of seeing. So now you will find that the external gross senses which we are speaking as the senses, when here Shankaracharya is saying that they are Sukshma Sharira, that doesn't mean these external organs, they're just the orifices. That this organ of perceptions, of hearing, of seeing, of smelling, of touch, of smell, all these are the centers in the mind. The centers in the mind, in that non-local mind, has been spoken of as the organs of perception, not these external orifices. So Vak Adi Pancha Sravanadi Pancha. And these 5 organs of action. First is Vak Adi Pancha are the karmendriyas. Speaking this, my hands, when they speak of the word Adi means etc. That organ of speech, that's the organ of karmendriya, through which you are acting upon, you are responding. So this organ of this speech, your hands, your limbs, your legs, and the organ of evacuation, the organ of regeneration, these are the karmendriyas, the organ of action. So again, these are the centers, not external centers which has been spoken of, which is in the body. They are again in that mind. That Swamiji again is giving that example. A very strong muscular man is lifting the weight, and we think it is the muscle which lifts the weight. Again, you cut the fine nerve which connects the muscle with the brain. But in spite of that huge big muscles, he will become like a paralyzed person. He cannot move, what to speak of lifting the weight. So it is not the external organs or external arms and the limbs which are spoken of as the organ of action, karmendriya. It is the center where the response generates. That how the mind is functioning, what's the difference between an inanimate object and an animate object? An inanimate object doesn't respond to the stimuli. An animate, the one which has life, responds to the stimuli. There's an external stimuli in the form of 5 perceptions, and that stimuli, when it is something which enters me, I respond in a particular way. There is a flower in the garden. As per my taste, how I may respond? I see the flower, that is through the organ of perception. And how I respond, if I am a devotee, I go and pluck it and just offer it to the divine in the altar. And if I just like the beauty of it, I'm a very aesthetic person, I may prepare a nice bouquet and keep it in my living room, in the dining space. Or if I don't like to pluck the flower at all, I would like to just keep it in the garden, and I would water the plants nicely so that it may flower more. So as per my taste, the response will be different. But that response again originates from the subtle body. So that's why this all has been mentioned as the part of the subtle body. Vak Adi Pancha, this speaks of the 5 organs of action, karmendriya. Sravanadi Pancha speaks of the 5 organs of perception, that again is in the mind. Pranadi Pancha, the prana which we speak of here is again not of the physical body. We think if I don't take food, then I will find that I become almost like a lifeless. In few days I will find my mind is not working, and at last I will find that all the vital organs starts failing, and it will result in death. So we may think that this prana again is something related to this physical body. No. Just in your computer, when you on the computer, the battery is something like the prana. You on it and the computer as if gets enlivened. But I forget that it is the owning of the computer which is in no way deciding the thing which I am downloading. The prana is acting there outside, it is already there in the transmission, it is already there. It is the collective aspect of the mind with which it has been as if surcharged. So here the prana, pancha prana which has been spoken of is of that non-local mind which doesn't relate to this body. So we have to be very clear about it. Pranadi pancha, abhra mukhani pancha, the 5 tanmatras. So these are the ideas which you have to be very clear of what tanmatras mean. Most of us will translate tanmatra as subatomic particles. That when I see the table, it is, I will say at last, it is made up of tanmatra. This yogis knew that any gross body is after all is made up of subatomic particles, because they spoke of tanmatras thousands of years back. It's a total wrong translation. This tanmatra doesn't mean the external subatomic particles. Tanmatra, what it means? Tat matra. Now, how the perception happens, we should be very, very careful, aware of the translating these words. Sanskrit is a very, very technical language. Behind each and every word, you will find that it has profound ideas. Tanmatra means tat matra, only that. So what it means? Just take an example. When I am seeing a red flower, I am smelling it. So many things are happening. The color I am perceiving, the shape of the flower I am perceiving. If I am touching the flower, its texture I am feeling. The smell, the texture, the shape, the color. So many things, and I am perceiving. What's my idea? That the smell, the touch, the shape, the color, everything together just as a synthesis, it has entered my mind, and the mind suddenly flashed the flower, the idea of the flower. It's a red flower, it is having a nice fragrance, most probably it's a rose, the fragrance of rose, very smooth, the petals are very smooth. Its shape, it has blossomed, I can even draw the shape, and it has all been perceived just at a time. No. Tat matra. Even the modern psychology will say you that if we study the brain, which is again the organ through which the mind is finding expression, we will find there are various different small parts of perception. The shape of the flower has been perceived in certain part of the brain, not the entire thing. The color in certain other part of the brain. The smell was perceived in some other, the smell center. And then the texture, the touch, that is also having a separate center. All these are separate perceptions in the mind. They are the function of mind. As we previously studied, that mind has 4 divisions as per their function. This mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Mana, what the man does as per its function? It synthesizes all these piecemeal perceptions. These piecemeal perceptions are the tanmatras, tat matra. They are synthesized to create a sense of whole within. It is not something without. That whole is not outside. I don't know what is there outside. The sense that the flower as a whole has been created within. That's why whatever we see is called information. The word information is very important. Something which has formed within. Information. Information is not something coming from outside. Information. All those piecemeal perceptions have came. I have processed, the mind has processed, and it has formed within. It is information. To understand it clearly, we can give an example. So when we are watching a movie in a big screen, we find that the characters are speaking. We feel with the movement of the lips, the character speaking, we feel it is the characters. We never feel the sound is coming from somewhere else. We feel it is the characters which are speaking. But actually what is happening? In the screen is silent. The characters are just moving the lips. The sound box is somewhere else from where the sound is coming. These two are synthesized in the mind to give me a feeling that the characters are speaking, isn't it? Just by a movie, when you are watching the movie, even in your laptop you are watching, the sound is coming from a different place. It is not from the screen, where you see the movement of the lips of the character from where the sound is coming. It is coming from the sound box. That sound is getting synthesized with what you are seeing to create a sensation that character is speaking. So you will understand what is information. That which is forming within. Information. It is forming within. And that's the function of the mind. So when the mind creates that whole, now comes the function of the buddhi, nishchayatmika buddhi. The question now arises that this thing which has been formed, what it is. Now, in the mind, which is the chitta, has the storehouse of all the informations. It has all the store, now the buddhi is like the librarian. You want a particular book. The mind has went and just told the buddhi. So this is the thing. This is the accession card I give you. The book which corresponds to that card, I want that. And then the librarian will go and pick up from this huge library. Just he knows he knows that science behind that this librarianship. He goes and picks up the book from the exact point. So buddhi is nishchayatmika. It does that. So just see, first the piecemeal perceptions happen. That is the abhramukha, that is the panchatanmatras. The mind made it a whole and presented to the buddhi. Buddhi, what it does? It goes to the chitta, where there is a storehouse of all the information. From there, it picks up all the information is already stored and says, yes, this is this This is the red rose. So now we will understand that what is the function of this mana, buddhi, chitta, and at last ahankara comes. That just the red rose is an information. When a computer produces a red rose, there is no reaction. We react. Why? Because of ahankara. The conscious principle is getting reflected in this body, and that creates the sensation, I am this limited body. But something behind is echoing. What it is echoing? That I am eternal. The self is eternal. The body is not eternal. It is echoing. Just the way when you stand in front of the mountain and you shout your name, it seems as if someone from the mountain is calling you. Similarly here, the self is saying, I am eternal. The ego, which is reflected, that because of the consciousness in this body, that echoes, I am eternal. Now it wants to realize that eternity through the body, because it feels that I am eternal, that is coming from the body, from within. And I want to realize, and even from a bacteria you will find the same thing is happening. What happens? Because of that ahankara, because of that ego, the reaction comes. How? If you give, in a microscope you look that there are some microbes moving just randomly. Now if you give some nutrient, you will find all those randomly moving microbes gathers a direction. They're moving towards it. If you give some toxin, they move away from it. Why? Because of ahankar, that I am this limited body which has to be eternal. It is not eternal. It is a Brahma. It is ignorance. Because of that ignorance, I think I am this limited body, and something is echoing from behind that you are eternal. To realize that eternity, what I am doing? Constantly, I am trying to preserve the body. Because if the body goes, I won't realize my eternity. So any nutrient, yes, I am drawn towards it. Anything which is favorable for my physical existence, I am drawn towards it. Raga, attachment. If it is not favorable to my existence, dvesha and abhinivesha. That is fight and flight response. I run away from it. I hate it. So all these responses are coming because of ahankara. So these are the four functions of the mind. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. So the mind, how it is forming the picture? By gathering the information from the tanmatras. All the tatmatras are the piecemeal perceptions. And then it presents it to the buddhi. Buddhi goes to the chitta and brings the matching information and said, this is this is that. And then ahankara comes to the picture. Oh, this thing which I am perceiving, whether it is favorable for my existence or not. So ahankara is coming to the picture. And then I react. I am reacting. So now you will find, what a wonderful way. Thousands of years back, they had this, just through this power of introspection, found out the function of the Sukshma Sharira, the various parts. Now let us just again read this sloka. Vak Adi Pancha, the 5 organs of action. Actually their function will come last. Sravana Adi Pancha, these organs of action, then organs of perception. Prana Adi Pancha, that which enlivens the Sukshma Sharira. Just in the computer, unless you on the computer, unless this battery is charged or the bias voltage is there, in spite of all your circuits, in spite of all the chips, it will be just like a dead log wood. Something has to enliven it. So the prana is the thing which enlivens the Sukshma Sharira. All the organs of perception, organ of action, they get enliven. So these 5 pranas, abhramukhani, these 5 piecemeal perceptions, abhramukhani, buddhi adi, and buddhi, what it means? The 4 functions of the mind. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. This all comes under the category of the buddhi. And then avidya api kama karmani. Because of ignorance, desire is arising. Just now we told that because of ignorance, when I see something, when the mind is producing something, now because of ignorance, kama can be of these 3 forms: raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. If it is something favorable, I am drawn towards it. If it is not favorable, I run away from it. That also is a desire. Why I am running away from it? Because I want to live. The desire for my limited existence is causing the fear. So that is also kama. There's something which you are afraid of, something which you hate. Actually speaking of desire, you have a desire for something, and that desire is not fulfilled because of certain circumstances. That's why you hate it. So raga, dvesha, abhinivesha all speaks of kama. And once you have that feeling, either in the form of attachment or hatred or fear. Now comes the reaction, karma. The karmani comes. So these 8. So karmendriya, the organs of action, first. The organs of perception, second. The prana, the vitality, is the third. And the piecemeal perceptions, the abhramukhani pancha, is the fourth. Buddhi and buddhi, mana, chitta, ahankara, this all taken together is the fifth. Avidya is the sixth. Kama is the seventh. Karma is the eighth. So these are the 8 which constitutes the sukshma sharira. So as a quick recapitulation, how these 8 are coming to picture, just let us again discuss. First comes the prana, to enliven just the way your IC chips, your hard disk gets enlivened. How? With the owning of the computer that speaks of the bias voltage. It's getting connected and then it gets enlivened. Otherwise, it's just like a dead log wood. So first comes prana to enliven the entire mind, and then the stimuli is the first thing, the organs of perception. There's organs of perception where what happens is through these organs of perception, the tanmatras, the various tanmatras, they are just entering through the organs of perception and presenting it to the mind. Mind is making it a synthetic whole. It is not something which is outside, I'm seeing as a synthetic whole. It's all piecemeal perception. I think the flower is there as a whole which I perceive. No. Perceptions are all piecemeal. What's there outside I never know. What is projected, that only I know. So when in the mind, that the manas now makes that synthetic whole and presents it to the buddhi. Buddhi now goes to the chitta and draws the comparison that yes, previously this is the thing which I'm seeing at now, this is already stored in my chitta, and I compare it and I say I ascertain it, nishchayatmika, this is such and such thing. Now the ignorance comes into picture to create that ahankara, that this thing, whether it is favorable for me or not. And according to that, the desire arises either in the form of attachment or in the form of hatred or fear. And based on that, I react. How I react? This karma, how? Through the organs of action. So now you will find that how nicely the entire functioning of the sukshma sharira, of the mind, which is not a part of this physical body. It is something non-local. Just as, that's the mind is actually one. There's a collective mind. We are all represent just a downloaded portion of that mind. Just in a computer, what we are doing. Through the internet, as per my subject, as per my liking, I download, and that constitutes my reality. A doctor creates his own reality. An engineer creates his own reality. From the same internet, they are all creating. So internet is like that collective aspect, non-local aspect. From that, we are localizing as per our desire, as per our liking. So it is not something that my mind is separate from your mind. It is just the way, as per our temperament, as per our biases, we are downloading, that creates my world, your world. But in reality, that mind is something which is non-local, which is finding expression through the brain, through the sense organs, and through the organs of action. So that's the wonderful thing which we find has been described by Shankaracharya in the 96th verse. So 97th verse we studied, we are not going to it now, because for understanding the dream state, the 97th verse is not important. This 96th verse is something which we have to keep in the background of our mind to understand the dream state, which has been spoken of in the 98th and in the 99th verse, which we will take now, which we will study now. The 98th and the 99th, which speaks of the dream state. It's very interesting. We will try to understand with the help of some examples, with the help of the exact functioning of the brain. The brain is not the sukshma sharira. It is the organ through which the sukshma sharira finds expression. Just when I am seeing the TV, if you ask the small child that from where all these characters are coming, the small child will invariably think it is as if inside the TV. But actually it is what? It is the transmission through which it is coming. It is non-local. Similarly, we may think it is the brain through which all these actions are happening. The modern science is yet in there's a big question mark that how really this brain is working. They cannot give any definite answer. So the scriptures long back have spoken of the mind as non-local. It's the brain is just like your hard disk through which that non-local mind is finding expression. So there's a various states. This has been spoken of the dream state. What is this dream state? How the mind is finding expression through the brain, that we will try to understand when we are studying this 98th and the 99th verse. So we will take the 98th and the 99th verse, we will study it, and then we will go to the discussion and try to understand what has been spoken of by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya in the 98th and the 99th verse while describing the dream state and ultimately saying that the self is something separate from this Swapna Avastha. It is just a witness of it. It is in no way identified with it. So that we will study in the 98th and in the 99th verse. So 98th verse, let us take as first what it is saying. We will read the verse first and then we will try to understand the literal meaning of it, and then we will go to the explanation, the between the line explanations. Swapno bhavati asya vibhakti avastha swamatra sheshena vibhati yatra swapne tu buddhi स्वयं एव जागृतकालीन नानाविध वासनादिभि कर्तृ आदि भावं प्रतिपद्य राजते. So what it is saying, beautiful, that dream state is a state of the soul which is different from the waking state. Waking state we are not taking now, it has already been described previously. That swapna bhavati asya vibhakti avastha. Vibhakti means it is something separate from the state which has already been described as the waking state. So swapna bhavati asya, that the dream state is vibhakti, is something separate from the waking state. How? Swamatra sheshena vibhati yatra. In dream state, buddhi shines by itself. We will try to understand that what actually it means. If you just read the literal meaning, it may not make any sense. But once we try to reflect, it is speaking something wonderful. Swamatra sheshana, swamatra. That buddhi is just acting by itself. Buddhi is just acting by itself. What it means we will come. First let us try to understand the literal meaning. Swapne, then what? In dream state, buddhi shines by itself. And in dreams, buddhi by itself takes the role of the agent, owing to the various latent impressions of the waking state. So in the chitta, in the hindbrain is the organ through which the latent impressions find expression. So it's the hindbrain, where as if all the latent impressions are stored. As we told, from the chitta, the buddhi gathers the already stored information to match what mana is bringing. And then it decides what it is. So here, buddhi by itself takes as in the deep sleep state. There is no question of the mana to act. Mana, what it does, through the organ of perception, all the piecemeal perceptions, it congregates to make a whole. Now in deep sleep state, that part of the mind is inactive. It's not working. So mana is nothing, bringing nothing to the buddhi. In deep sleep state, we should understand that it is not the state where the mind is totally inert. Part of the mind is active. This buddhi is still active. Now as nothing is bringing, the mind is not bringing something to the buddhi. Buddhi is free. It is the agent itself, it is the karta, to just randomly do whatever it likes. So by itself it takes the role of the agent, owing to various latent impressions of whatever you have gathered in the waking state, it's all there. Now from there, as there is nothing to match, it plays a havoc. It's plays random. To give an example, it's better to just understand it, because otherwise it makes no sense what it is saying. Now when I'm in the wakeful state, I see a mountain. I know this is a mountain. I see a piece of gold. I know this is a piece of gold. What the mind is perceiving something, the buddhi is now as if the mind is there to monitor the buddhi. So buddhi is bringing something. Now the mind compares with whatever it has stored and says, oh, this is this is that. So there is no chance in the waking state to see a golden mountain. I cannot see that. But when you are in deep sleep, this is an example which is given in our scriptures. In deep sleep, you may see a golden mountain. Why? As the mana is inactive, a part of the mind, that which brings the perception in to create that synthetic whole, that function is not working. That is inert, that is inactive. So buddhi is free. So all the various ideas, now they can create riot. What idea has to, as if get riveted by another idea, there is no such monitor to control that. So in my buddhi, the buddhi from chitta can bring the idea of gold, can bring the idea of mountain and synthesizes too. As there is now, your mind is inactive, that mind is not there, synthesize that too, and in dream sleep you can see a golden mountain. So what all ideas are getting synthesized is random, as nothing is controlling. So that's being mentioned. Now buddhi itself is the agent. As no one, just take an example in the classroom. In the classroom, the teacher is there, the students are all sitting in their own respective positions, because teacher is there to monitor. They are quite disciplined. And then the teacher goes out. The next class is yet to start. There is a gap. And you will find the students are all jumping, frolicking. What has happened? As there is no monitor, they have all left their position. They are just going to the other seat, jumping. So that's the thing happens in the dream state. It's a very active state. It's not that at that time your mind is inactive. It's very active because there is no monitor. The monitor is not there. So all sorts of idea, buddhi means this all the ideas which the buddhi brings from the chitta. Now they are free to intermingle with each other. So in the relaxed state that happens. In this context we will say, what to speak of dream state? Even in our education the same thing happens. I will just give you a very funny example. It's something you can really match with your own life. You will find those who are from the Indian background or from the Asian background. Their parents are quite strict. The students are bound to be disciplined because the parents are always there. They ask, focus on your studies. Constantly they are saying. And you will find even in Australia, in school, in the 12th standard, it's mostly the Asian students who excel. They're in the top. Every year. Focus. So because through focus what happens? You're gathering information. When you are alert, you gather all the information. It is focus. But that's not all. Now, very interesting. In school, they're all excelling. But if you go to the higher studies, you will find that in spite of so much good result, there you will find, though it's few, because we will find in the West the culture is those who really like education, those who are passionate, they only go for higher education. Others will choose some other profession. So those who are really interested, they go. Most probably they have not excelled in school, but once they go to the university, they find they're really doing something wonderful where Asian students sometimes don't come nearby. The things are changing, but that was the picture. Why? Because in education, another thing is there. When you're relaxing, if you're always focused, you gather information. When you're relaxing, in your dream state, all the scientific discoveries has happened in the dream state. When you're relaxing, whatever you have gathered in, all the informations, they start processing. When it is processing, what idea will intermingle with what, no one knows. You will find most of the scientists are half mad. Because in their mind, what's going on, no one knows. But suddenly, from all those that's intermingling, as you have allowed the mind to intermingle, suddenly some wonderful things may come together to create in a flash something which brings a total new way of thinking, a new invention. Because they have allowed the mind to process and then it comes. So in the dream state, though it creates all sorts of quiet things, but know it for certain that in dream state, suddenly some idea may get riveted with some idea to create a wonderful discovery or invention. If you read the stories, you will find there that how the genes was discovered, the structure of genes. This Crick was totally exhausted in the laboratory that couldn't in any way found out that what's the structure of genes is. For days together he was struggling. And in the dream, when he was totally exhausted, he went to a state of the swoon. He was just he was dozing off. And then suddenly, in his mind, in dream, what he saw, the two snakes are intercoiled with each other. That they are intertwined, the two snakes. So it has nothing to do with the way what he was doing in the laboratory. Suddenly that idea came. And from that the double helix structure of the DNA, from that it struck him. So in science you will find that it is not through analysis you go to the conclusion. Suddenly an idea comes to the mind. Then the mathematical calculation comes to tally what has come to your mind. No discovery has happened through analysis. That through analysis I went to a final conclusion. No. Suddenly an idea came. Now this idea, whether it is correct or not, yes, for that I have taken the help of the so-called mathematics, substantiated with mathematics, to go to the conclusion. So this intermingling of the ideas of the buddhi when the mana is not working is not total waste. That even the science, evolution science, what they say, that you will find that in dream, most of the dreams are actually speaks of some danger. That we get this nightmares. We wake up. Why? Because through the process of evolution, actually that also, it's not a waste. We are seeing something which has nothing to do with our day-to-day life. That predator has attacked, I am trying to run but I cannot run, and then suddenly my dream wakes, I find, oh, it was dream. Why all those things happening? They say that was a way by which all the organisms to do a drilling. Just like nowadays, even when there is no fire in the school, they do the fire drill. That if fire is there, what all you are supposed to do. So mind through all those nightmares are actually doing something like fire drill. So it's not totally waste, though it speaks of all ideas which has nothing to do with the real life. But the idea, what the main idea comes out, that it is something like those children in the class where the monitor, when the teacher is not there, they are all jumping and making fun and frolic. They are not in their seat. They are all moving around. So that is the swapne tu buddhi swayam eva jagrat kali. So they are the agent. No one is there to control them. Nana vidha vasanadivi kartriya adi bhavam pratipadya rajate. So that's a wonderful idea, that owing to the various latent impressions of the waking state, by itself it has taken the role of the agent, and it is just and rampant working as the way it wants. So that's the 98th. And the 99th verse will speak of that the self has nothing to do with it. It is just the one, that it's something, the function of the notorious mind. The notorious mind, when it has not the monitor, someone to monitor upon it, the latent impressions, the way it creates havoc, it's working, but someone is witnessing that. That's the self. So, dhi matraka upadhi asesha shakshi. So, what it is saying, the Supreme Atman shines in its own glory, with buddhi as its only superimposition. So, when I am awake, then the Annamaya Kosha comes to picture. This physical body, very interesting. When I am sleeping, what to speak of deep sleep? Even when I am dreaming, the sense, other things have fallen off. The idea of the physical body have fallen off. If someone comes, and Sri Ramakrishna is saying in the gospel that we are so much egoistic about our existence, that I am such, I am such. Everything is just in the waking state. When you are sleeping, what to speak of deep sleep? When you are dreaming, those upadhis starts falling off. If someone comes and spits on you, you are not aware. If someone comes and spits on you, you are not aware. That's the simple language Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So that's the simple idea which Shankaracharya is saying. Dhi matraka. Other upadhis has fallen off. That I am such and all those things has fallen off. Only the buddhi, that is superimposed upon the soul. Dhi matra upadhi ashesha sakshi. So that is the only remnant. Ashesha means that remnant thing. The thing which is only remaining as a remnant. Of that, the self is the sakshi. Na lipyate tatkrita karmaleshai. But the self is just the witness. It is in no way identified with that. It is just the witness of everything which is going on. Ashesha Sakshi. What all is going on in the mind, it is just the witness and is not touched by the least work that buddhi does. Tata eva karmahi na lipyate. It is in no way, it is just the witness. Yasmat asanga tata eva karmahi na lipyate kinchit upadhina kritai. So as it is wholly unattached, yasmat asanga, so it is not touched by any work that its superimposition, that is the mind, may perform. Whatever the mind is performing, it is not in any way attached to it. So now what it is actually speaking is very interesting. If you relate to the modern, this neurology, this way the brain, the organ through which the mind is working, if you study the brain, they say that the prefrontal cortex, that is the front part of the cerebral cortex, that actually represents our ego. And then orbitofrontal cortex, that is the decision-making center. That these are awake, your front brain and your orbitofrontal is between the eyebrows. So this ego, the decision-making center, they are awake in the waking state. They are like the teacher in the classroom. And the midbrain is the center of the desires and the pleasures. Hindbrain is the storehouse of all latent impression. Now in dream state, the midbrain as well as the frontal lobe, they are inactive. Sometimes we say that all the desires arises in the dream. It's a very wrong notion. In dream, the desires generally, if you really try to, if you are aware, if you ever remember your dream, most probably from sleep you are already awake, then the desire may arise. Desires never arise in dream. In dream, you may have the impressions which creates nightmare, that this is danger, this is good, this is danger, that type of ideas. So all those latent impressions in the hindbrain, they are creating the havoc. The so-called, they say that the midbrain and the front brain, which are like the monitors, they are inactive, they are not there. But behind that, the self is there only to witness what is going on in the mind. As the buddhi is creating a random havoc, that it is watching. To understand what has been spoken of in these two verses, let us take an example. Then it will become clear that what is spoken of. In a school, the principal is sitting in his office, and there is nowadays a surveillance camera. And through a surveillance camera, he can visualize what is going on in the classroom. So the principal is in no way in the classroom. He is just the witness. He is just through the surveillance camera, he is seeing in the classroom. Now what is the Jagrat state? The teacher is in the classroom, the students are in the classroom. Both of them are there. The teacher through the surveillance camera is seeing what is seeing. The class is disciplined. The teacher is there to monitor upon what's going on. So this, because as your ego, your decision-making center, they are all alert. This ego and the decision-making centers are something like the teacher. They are alert. They know that what are the things which are desired, what are the things which are not desired. Accordingly, the students have to be controlled. So the students are disciplined in the presence of the teacher, the ego and the decision-making center, the frontal cortex. So there you find this when this principal through the surveillance camera is looking at the classroom where the teacher is there, it is like the Jagrat Avastha, that all the centers are active. Now the same principal, the principal is in no way in the classroom, he's just witnessing. So he is the witness of the classroom. When the class is going on, the teacher is there. And when the teacher is not there, now the students have started jumping around. The principal again, through his surveillance camera, is watching that. He is the witness. He can easily see what's going on in the classroom, all the jumping. The deep sleep state we are yet to study, where there is no action. In the Yoga Sutra, the deep sleep state has been described very nicely. Abhava pratyaya. This Abhava pratyaya alambana vritti nidra. These words, if you don't understand, then to understand the real meaning becomes almost impossible. Now, unless you know the difference between pratyaya and vritti, you can never understand this sutra. Very nice sutra. Abhava pratyaya Alambana vritti nidra. What is pratyaya and what is vritti? Now, mind is constantly breaking into waves. And these waves have certain picture. So just in the ocean, when there are waves and there is a sun in the sky, each and every wave will be reflecting that sun, isn't it? So the sun is the content of the wave, the reflected sun is the content of the wave, and the shape of the wave, that speaks of the pratyaya. So pratyaya speaks of the shape of the wave, that the impulse. And what's the content of that? That each and every wave has a content. When I'm seeing the flower, the content of that impulse in my brain is the flower. So you will just, a very interesting thing they have defined. Abhava. So vritti speaks of the content which is inside, and pratyaya speaks of the wave. Pratyaya speaks of the content and vritti speaks of the wave. Now very interesting, abhava pratyaya. The wave is there, but there is no content. Why I am saying these sutras are wonderful? Even in modern science, they have found out when they scan the brain that in deep sleep, the brain is not simply like a flat, curve. No, there are still waves. The waves are of different nature, but the waves are still there. See how nicely they are saying. The vritti is still there, but they are abhava pratyaya. There is no content. Abhava pratyaya alambana. The vrittis, what they are holding, abhava pratyaya, zero pratyaya, no pratyaya. That is nidra. So in deep sleep state, what's that condition? The class is over. The school time is over. Now the teacher has left the classroom. The students also have left the classroom. The classroom is vacant. That is abhava pratyaya, vacant. Through the camera, the teacher is witnessing that. It's not that he's not witnessing. He's still witnessing that. So he is the sakshi of all the three states. That when the class, the teacher is there, that is the waking state. Everything is disciplined. That someone monitor is there to have control over the buddhi. Dream state, where the monitor is not there, the ego, the decision-making centers are not there, the buddhi is rampant from the chitta. It is rising, all ideas are intermingling with others to create all sorts of vague ideas, nonsense, which has nothing to do with the so-called reality in the wakeful state. That is the state of the dream state. The principle through the surveillance camera is saying that he is a witness. The principle is unchanged. He is sitting there. Nothing as such is affecting him. He is just a witness. And when the class is over, school hours, the final bell has rung, the students have left, the teacher has left, the empty classroom, that is the deep sleep state. That also the teacher is seeing. So he is just the sakshi. Everything is going on in the mind. But the one who is behind the mind, the sakshi, is in no way affected by it. It is because of him everything is there, but because without him, everything, because on that self, everything is being superimposed. They don't have a separate existence from the self. It is being superimposed on that. But at the same time, it is not identified with it. That something is something is projected, but not identified. You may say, how come it be? We can see even in our day-to-day life. When we, in the twilight hours, because of lack of light, see a snake in a rope. So the snake is superimposed on the rope. But can that projected snake affect the rope? Can that snake go and inflict the rope with poison? No. Because it is just a projection. When you are passing through the desert, you see a huge reservoir. The reservoir which you see is the mirage, which is projected on the desert. Does that reservoir has the capacity to drench, that huge reservoir you see, does it has the capacity to drench even a single particle of sand? No. So it's a mere projection. It has in no way the capacity to affect the one who is witnessing, because it is just a mere projection of it. So that's the wonderful idea which Shankaracharya is describing in the 98th and in the 99th verse of Vivekachudamani. By describing the dream state, he is saying at last that in this dream state, something is behind which is witnessing it, which is not identified with it, which is not in any way affected by it. So you will see that how these ideas are very, very systematic, analyzed, as it has been analyzed so wonderfully to take you to the conclusion, which you will find tallies with the modern findings of your science, of neurology and everywhere. That's what Swami Vivekananda is saying, that we encourage this development, more and more development of science. Why? Because more the science develops, the more the ideas of Vedanta will shine forth. Whatever is superstitions, whatever is gross, that will fall off, that will be washed away, but the essence of the Vedanta will shine forth. And just when we are studying these sutras, these slokas, you will find that in no way you can in any way find that something nonsense has been spoken of. It is very, very analytic. In a wonderful way, they have done an introspection of our so-called phenomenal existence to find out that there is something witness which is behind that, which is in no way affected, and that's the real me. And once you know that, that helps us to transcend all the dualities of life. That's the freedom. That in the name of religion at present, what we do, that, oh God, we go and pray, oh God, that please help me to get rid of suffering. But it's a nonsense, it's not a real spirituality. This phenomenal existence will go on in its own way. There will be some ups and downs. As such, my prayers also ultimately have no value. That, okay, I have some disease now, and I pray to God and I find my disease is gone, and I say, oh, my God is great, I say. But have you seen a single person who is eternal? Today I may get rid of the disease, but is it going to be something eternal that I continue in my physical body through eternity? In this Prakriti, there are ups and downs. Maybe something may be averted for the time being, but ultimately, as Buddha told, the physical world is imperfect. Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu is the fact of life. So just to think of having everything wonderful in this life is never possible. To have heaven on earth is never possible that way. What we can do is transcend. That this, after all, is not the real me. And the real me nothing can touch. So let the world go on as it is. I am not affected. And here we find that the difference between the Oriental way of thinking and the Western thought. Someone told me that with all your high Vedanta, at last you go into India, everything is chaotic. How this Vedanta helps? I told, see, this is actually speaks of the thing which we really believe. In the West, the idea is, what's the idea of heaven? That all this earth minus its imperfections. That's the idea of heaven. All good, no evil. And so, you will find the society here. You come here, parks are clean, roads are good, buildings are wonderful. They have tried to create a heaven on earth. How much it is possible, you don't know, because Swamiji told, when you just solve the problem in the physical level, it finds expression in the mental level. So you will find, in spite of all those things, at last, in psychology, as you take the psyche, you'll find there's all sorts of aggravated situations which speaks of a psychological problem. So, but why we are having this type of society here? Because that's the idea, that heaven is all the good minus the evil. And in Vedanta, what's the idea? Good, evil belongs to this phenomenal world. It is just a flow. I am something separate from it. So that's why there maybe everything is chaotic, but still you will find the people, sometimes you will find, is quite happy with himself. Whatever maybe the external situation is, it speaks of the peaceful, a very, a happy psyche which comes from that philosophy. That external world, I have nothing to do with it. With this goods and evil, my heaven is neither good nor evil. It's something which transcends that. The ideas of good and evil came from my ego. Whatever satisfies my physical existence is good. Whatever doesn't satisfy my physical existence is bad. It comes from the ego. My real self is beyond that ego. It's in no way this is the ego. So the external world may be something in a chaotic situation. I have nothing to do with that. So now you will understand that philosophy doesn't entail that the society should be very good. It's actually the way, what's your benchmark is. On that depends your real well-being. So don't judge by the package. Just try to understand it, that how we can transcend the dualities of life to really be above it, and then only we can think of real spiritual evolution. The happiness is something within, which is not in the package, not without. So that's the thing with which we'll conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars. We'll continue again with the succeeding slokas in the next class. Thank you.